Ask the Mayor with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan, talking about the City of Beatrice issues right off the top. Big congratulations to the Lady Orange softball team.
Absolutely.
State title.
They played really, really well.
Yeah. Your city administrator was not at the council meeting, but he had a good excuse for that.
Yes, he did. His daughter played very, very well, as well as all of them. They did a really good job, and they deserved it. I mean, at the end of the day, they played well enough to win state, and they deserved every bit that they get.
Tobias's daughter, Tatum, had the game-winning base hit up the middle, too, so that was pretty cool. And a lot of those players are back, too, it sounds like. So,
absolutely,
Could be a good team, a very good team for a long time.
I'm sure the coach smiled about winning and smiled about how many people he's got coming back.
Yeah, I think what the cross-country team, too, is going to state. I think, was it Friday? Pretty sure.
Something like
boys
that.
Team is,
yeah.
So good luck to them. I think that's out in Kearney, if I remember right. Usually is. Maybe I might be wrong on that.
Yeah, it might be.
I was thinking it was Kearney, but good luck to the Orangemen, too.
Absolutely.
Some success locally. It's always kind of a pride thing. I know there's those things where they organize the send-off thing going through town. That's always kind of nice to do. Things
I think that's also one of the things that people probably appreciate about living in a town our size or smaller. You live in a city, you don't see that recognition, and you don't have a lot of the kids getting the recognition that we have the opportunity to do. I think from Class D up through Class B, you see a lot of that pride and a lot of those signs, and a lot of fans that travel.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to be said.
It's good. Congratulations to both. Well, another payment approved Monday night on the 33rd and Lincoln Street project. I hadn't gone out there for a while, at least up close, but how's the work coming there to get
Work's
finished?
Coming to an end. I think, like we talked last time on the radio, may have extended a day or two as we move the street into the halfway part there on 27th. I think they're going to be done probably maybe by the end of next week or the first of the week after. And so that's a project that I think when we first saw it drawn up, it was developed into 3 phases that we talked about. And then when they got going with their big machines, they really had, A, the weather, and B, a lot of hard work. They're going to be done, like I said, short of Christmas, short of Thanksgiving, and not having to come back in the spring. So that's a great situation for all involved. And, we'll talk about a little later about safe streets, but it's also giving a really good chance for people to come in and out of the school safely.
Originally, wasn't that whole thing supposed to extend into like summer or fall of next year? I mean, that was kind of the thinking to get the entire thing done.
I think what we had hoped, and it was better than what we hoped, we were trying to break it into phases, so the first 2 phases would be done at the end of this year. And we wanted to make sure wherever we stopped was the finish of a phase. And then we figured we'd have to come back in the spring and do phase 3. But at the end of the day, here we are. We're successful. Hats off to constructors. It looks good. It really does. When you think about, I would imagine, I haven't seen this, but I imagine if you'd put a picture of what the old Lincoln and 33rd Street looked like, and then this one, you'd see a significant difference in width and quality.
You even wonder if it was the same area.
You really would. So
and it seems like, and I haven't heard anything to the contrary, like the part that has been done and around the school seems like parents have adjusted well to that, and it's pretty easy to get in and out, of the school property there. And then once everybody kind of knows the routine, it doesn't seem like there's been.
No, I think it's gone fairly well. I think there was a lot of planning by Beatrice Public Schools to make sure that happened, and I think it went remarkably well.
Next up along Lincoln Street, what are you maybe looking at? Is it the intersection of 6th and Lincoln, or is long-term what might be in the offing there, I guess?
Well, I guess sorry to skip down the agenda for you, but we'll kind of we'll tie that in a little bit to Safe Streets for All, the open house. The open house is coming up from 4 to 6 next Wednesday at the Beatrice High School in the Commons area. I think, as we've said, the great thing about the Safe Streets for All, it allows us then to go out and using, our office plus our grant writers the opportunity to look for grant funding. One of the things you had to do is complete this particular study in order to apply for grants. And so I think we've got some good opportunities to improve Lincoln Street and start working on that entire plan. I know at one time we talked about how do we fix the intersections that are a little bit, for lack of a better word, wonky.
Yeah.
And 5th and 6th Street is one of those where it is kind of a strange intersection. So I think we'll take a look at that of how the best way to move forward. Is is it fixing the intersections, or is it laying things out in like a 2, 3, or 4 block process so that you just kind of slowly move up Lincoln Street? A lot of that will depend on funding. A lot of that will depend on how we can make sure that there's good traffic flow.
Seems like 6th and Lincoln and 13th and Lincoln, where you
Right.
have the jog there, which is kind of an unusual quick move you have to make as a motorist in either direction there. Kind of the two that stick out as to, hey, maybe something needs to be done in the
Correct.
future. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's lined up, it's developed, it's been approved. Now it's try to find the money.
Saw a bunch of surveyors with the Nebraska Department of Transportation along North 6th, South 6th, or what would be US 77. What's going on there? Just sort of laying out kind of future where that, I know that's to be resurfaced at.
It is. It's going to be resurfaced, I think, 2027 or 2028. I think what they're doing with the survey crew is getting the current status of heights and depths and right away and those type of things, and I'm sure all that information and data will go to the design team that will then take a look and start designing the road and the redo and see how big of a project that really is. I know that as you drive through town, you can certainly see where it's ready with some dips and some bumps to be resurfaced or completely redone, depending on what the Nebraska Department of Transportation decides. One of the things that, like the stoplights in town on the highways, we have no control over that, and I'm sure we might have a little bit of input on Highway 77 redo, but I'm sure the design team at Nebraska Department of Transportation, since it is a highway, will have the majority of how they would like to see that road. And I think they will probably use some of the information and data from our Safe Streets for All. Since we know that's between 11 and 2, in that section there from about Arthur to Monroe, you kind of have a lot of cars, a lot of traffic, a lot of people going for lunch break, and that's kind of a high area of accidents.
Yeah.
So
the other thing, too, in kind of that same area, you have older homes or kind of more closed into the road, and you have curbside sidewalks in a lot of places, which I don't think anybody really likes because it's kind of a safety issue. Do you see when you have projects like this, is there any possibility to do something different with sidewalks there, or is there just not enough room to, move them back that might be a safer alternative?
I don't know the answer to that. I guess as I look at the sidewalks there and the hills that we have, particularly on what would be the east side, I think that would be a really tough thing to move those sidewalks. I know that maybe this is just because I'm getting a little bit older. There's a stretch through there that at one point in time it didn't bother me, but at the end of the day it's pretty narrow.
Yeah.
And so I think they'll look at all of those things, and I think the Safe Streets for All took a look at those things and may have some strong suggestions for how they believe safety and Highway 77 redo would come about.
Yeah. We talked about that jog at 6th and Lincoln, east and westbound. There's actually a little bit for northbound and southbound there, too, because you have that little...
There is.
As it moves past the bank there and the funeral home and the evidence storage area for the sheriff's office, and I kind of wonder if they'll be doing something with that or try to straighten that out. I don't know.
It'll be interesting. And at the end of I'm glad we ended up doing the Safe Streets for All report, because at least we have information that we can give them on history and safety.
Yeah. Even before that, US 136 or Court Street, is that next year to redo that, or is that the year after? I keep forgetting what... I know some of those things kind of move back and forth depending on the state of Nebraska's schedule, too, but...
I was thinking the resurface was basically maybe next summer. I don't know of that I think you got a couple of things in play there. I think you've got the resurfacing. I think you've got the reroute of the highway through the RAISE grant, and then you've got the redoing of the bridge there. And so I'm not sure how all that timing is going to work. I know that probably NDOT does, and we'll see what they come up with.
All right. Always kind of a little bit of mystery on some of these projects as to timing, because it's kind of like a 1 and 6 year plan. You can kind of plan out that first year, but anything beyond the first and second year is kind of a adjustment at times.
And it is, because there's always going to be something that pops up that could be a priority. It could be a situation where, as you know, we haven't had enough rain, but if you have major rains and flooding that takes out a section of highway someplace, I'm sure that is going to take precedence over some of the other jobs they're going to do. So, yes, you're right. 1 and 2 years are pretty solid. 3s through 6 are hopes.
Hopes, yeah. You'd like to do it, but you might not get it done.
That's
That's
right.
kind of the way it goes. You're listening to Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. We'll have more in a moment. This is Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan today. A couple of appointments on Monday night's council schedule. One was the appointment of Chad Lotman to the Airport Advisory Board. Also had a housing authority. Board appointee. The one on the airport, Chad Lotman, he is taking, as I understand, a place of a person who's been on that since 20-25 years? And,
It has been a long time.
and when it was the authorty board, not the
Correct.
advisory board. So
Correct. He was one of the longstanding members of the Airport Authority Board, and Stan Meyer has gotten a lot of projects done for the airport along with that authority board through the years. I think, gosh, we talk about redoing the runways and all of those type of things. The authority board and now the advisory board has kind of continued with that to really make our airport a really, really nice asset that we have. And I want to thank Stan for all his years of service. And quite honestly, it's looking exciting. I think Chad Lotman will bring a lot to the airport advisory board as well. I think he's a good user of the airport. I think he's got a really level head and a business head on his shoulders, and I think he'll be a great addition to the advisory board.
I think the next two big projects, the Apron project, Fuel Island project, and then also I know they're working on hangar space and
Correct.
things like that. So good things to come. And I think there was, federal appropriation, too, for the, if I remember right, for the
hangar.
For the hangar.
Yes.
And I think there was one pending, or maybe it's been received already, wasn't it, for the Apron project?
For the Apron project, yeah.
So-
But the hangar was an appropriation from one of our senators, and so that's really, really nice because we are short on hangar space.
Okay. One of these things that shows up on consent agendas that maybe doesn't get a lot of attention, but a cybersecurity agreement, training agreement with a company. And for people who don't think that's important, the city has some experience, the wrong type of experience in that, where you had hacking situation a few years ago, and one of those sort of ransomware type things that took place, which is unfortunate, but those things happen, and I guess we live in a different world today. You have to be really cautious of a lot of things.
We do. The hacking, when they took control of our network, really the only option was to pay a little bit of ransom to get it back. And from that point in time, I know we put a lot of things into a lot of security items in place, and this is just another cybersecurity training opportunity because, everybody today at a working environment has their own emails and has access to different programs in that their company, or in this case the city, uses. And I think not only cybersecurity training is great, I think there's terms like phishing and those type of things where anymore when you get an email, you really got to take a look at it and say, is this really meant for me? And the first thing you do is you look at who it comes from, or if your name's really weird. Or I can tell you another instance that I've had seen happen at the city level. Occasionally there'll be an email that comes out, and to harvest my email is pretty easy. They can have these robots come up with B. Morgan, and it's got the the city address on there. And then occasionally, whether it's myself or it might be from Tobias or it might be from another council member, they'll send an email out. The hackers will send an email out to maybe the list of all the council and say, hey, this is Bob. Can you help me? I need to get this money to such and such a place. Well, I would never write an email like that, but you're going, did I send that? And that just happened a couple of weeks ago. I had a couple council members go, did you really send this? And I went back and said, good catch. No, I didn't. I think the other things that as you look at emails, whoever you are, you can kind of tell what things have been cut and what things have been pasted. And so it's really not a real email. So the cybersecurity training, I'm sure, will take a look at all of those opportunities to educate everybody on what are good emails and what aren't.
My favorite is the emails you get where they can't even spell a common word right. And that's usually a pretty good tip-off that something is amiss. And I know I've gotten really familiar with the delete button, on a lot of those, and you just don't open them up if they're
right
suspicious.
You just don't. And, as the old adage goes, if it's got an attachment, you better really, really know who that came from before you hit that attachment. And what did I hear on the news? One of the biggest scams, and it probably hits the elderly more than anything, is when there's a pop-up that comes on your screen, and it says something like, you've got, something wrong with your computer. Click here and we'll connect it and fix it for you. And then you pay money before they'll fix it, and then whatever they said you do is wrong is no longer wrong, and the money's gone. And so you really have to be careful of who you give money to. And probably if it something pops up on your screen and say you've got something wrong with your computer, click here and we can fix it remotely, I would probably double check with one of my computer people in town, and they can sure help you if you've got something wrong.
And how would they know you even have anything wrong with your computer? I mean, let's face it, just from a common sense standpoint.
Yep, that's right.
Yep,
but all of a sudden you go, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my computer. Well, no.
You always figure if you have to delete something several times anyway, if it was legitimate, hey, make them prove otherwise that it is legitimate.
Right.
I mean, you can delete it as many times as you want and just make them go to the work if it actually is something that is legitimate.
And most of the time it's not legitimate.
Yeah, that's for sure. Quick update on the Kensington, or the former Paddock Hotel. I understand, from Monday night's action, what the tie between the city and Main Street, that arrangement is done.
Correct.
Now on that. So
correct.
What's the update on the project itself there?
Well, I think they're still working through design. I know they've had Hoppy has had people in taking looks at everything. The next step will be at some point in time in probably the near future. We will transfer the Kensington to Hoppy. And that will kind of tie, this Monday night tied everything up in a bow with an understanding. And, we thank Main Street for helping us and the city putting together that partnership so that we could acquire the Kensington and move forward with Hoppy as our developer. So that relationship now as a partnership at least has been finalized and done and everything squared away. And the city has it. And the next step is to have Hoppy Development get it from us.
I see. The historic tax credit part of that, wasn't that coming up pretty soon as far as finalizing that?
Yeah.
I was thinking November or something.
Something like that. And that's a big part of what Hoppy Development needs. I mean, it's going to take some money to renovate that building. And so, again, though, as I think I said Monday night, it's the corner of 6th and Court. And so this will be a really nice addition, or not really addition, but remodel to help with the downtown revitalization.
One of the most prominent buildings in the city of Beatrice.
It is.
Had to take that out of there, that would, you no doubt would notice it.
We would.
Sure. Yeah.
It would definitely change the character of downtown.
Yeah. Back to wrap up Ask the Mayor with Mayor Bob Morgan in just a moment. Back on Ask the Mayor, about 4 or 5 minutes left in our program today. Maybe just a few things that are coming up on the schedule here. City operates a yard waste collection program, and the last day of the normal or typical season's coming up next Wednesday. But I guess you still have, you can still bring it to yard waste to the compost site at the landfill.
Yard collection for those that had it. I think it runs from April 1st through October 31st, so it'll come around again next next year. I think the thing to remember, though, is when you sign on, whether you sign on in October or April or October, you owe the same amount. It's about $7 a month, and it spans that entire time, and you pay for that entire time. Yes, Boswell, we still have the compost site, so you can take your leaves. Right now, leaves are dropping like crazy to the compost site. The hours will change in November as we have a change with daylight savings time, so there'll be shorter hours out there at night.
Yeah.
And again, remember, we do have the recycling trailers out there as well, and they will maintain those same hours. So you still have the opportunity to get rid of your leaves.
Speaking of leaves dropping, tree removal bids recently.
Yes.
Hire contractors to do that when you have trees that are past their life stage. Do you get a lot of bids, or just kind of local companies? Or?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
The bid process is one of those operational things that the city administrator and, of course, the Parks Department director take care of. So I would guess we probably did.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of those things you just have to do to keep that park vitalized.
Yeah. One of the, I think we talked last week just briefly about the benefits of, trees and a good healthy tree stock. One of the neat things about this time of the year is the color that you get with city parks and everything. Just driving down West Court Street, I was noticing the other day how kind of brilliant the difference looks. And it's kind of a neat time of the year to kind of show off what the city has in its public.
It is, and it's probably more than just the city. I think it's all through southeast Nebraska. I think somebody said that one of the places a lot of people drive through are Indian State Park because of the trees changing, and it's kind of like what it is in, Maine and those type of places.
Yeah.
So I know it is. It looks like they all have been changing colors almost the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they kind of stagger, but they're all changing about the same time because it is getting to be the end of October, and it is really a nice time to be a tree watcher.
Kind of has something to do with how dry or how wet it was, and then of course freeze time or frost time factors into it. But this year seems like you have some pretty brilliant differences out there, so it's kind of neat. Kind of hope the leaves stay up in the trees for a little while here, so we can look at it for a couple more weeks.
Absolutely, and you're right. We had that one freeze, and I think right after that one freeze, we saw a number of leaves start to fall.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, a big election coming up that I think everybody's hoping will be over at some point fairly quickly. Just a reminder, though, to vote, whether it's early voting or in person. Do you have a favorite? Are you an on election day voter, or you choose to vote early?
I still go to the polls.
You do.
And I got to remember this year to bring my driver's license.
There you go.
Because it's voter ID, and that's fine. I've got it ready to go. I guess, I've voted in every presidential election since I turned 18. And the only option I had when I turned 18 was to go vote in person. And I've just kept that up. But I have to say that I keep thinking about maybe I should just go ahead and get on the list to have the ballot sent to me so I can send it in. It would be a lot easier. But there's still something about the democratic process of walking in and casting your ballot and putting it in that box.
Well, you and Dave Needfelter are alike. He's a traditionalist too. He likes to go right to the right on the day of. And,
well, good. I'm glad.
That's good.
I'm in good company then.
There you go. Yeah. Some people will say, "Well, I like to get my ballot early, and then I can see and I kind of study who's." But you can do that too, other ways. So.
You can. You can. And, this year, what is there? A number of amendments that people have to read through. And no matter what year it is and no matter what the issue is, amendments can be somewhat tricky on what does a vote for mean and what does a vote against mean. And so I think those are some of the things that people really need to study and take a look at and vote the way they truly feel, knowing that is yes, is no. How is that? Yeah.
You have 4 council positions up for election. I think 2 of them are uncontested, but you have first and third ward too. And so you rotate every 4 years, half of the council.
Yes, we do. And, good luck to all the candidates that are running for city council. I'm really pleased that we have people that are willing to run. Congratulations to the 2 that are running unopposed. I think we'd always like to see some competition in every one of those, but the 2 people that are unopposed will, one's been a long time standing council member. They'll continue to do a good job, and looking forward to the other one joining us to bring a little bit of a different perspective to the council.
Quick plug, you have a ribbon cutting coming up at 11:30 for a downtown park today.
There is a little downtown park that was part of Leadership Beatrice. They're going to open up, I think, a pocket park where there's a very narrow strip where we tore down a building. That's a great opportunity, a great idea. And if you think about it, Leadership Beatrice has done a lot of really nice projects for the city of Beatrice, and gosh, are they in their 17th year?
It's the 18th or 19th, I think it is, and I can't remember which, but it's been around a while.
So I think we just have to really recognize all the good work that they've done.
Yep. Night of the Great Pumpkin between 5 and 7. I know you have city displays down there lots of times with police, fire, and street department and things like that. So,
absolutely.
Electric department. So.
Great time to come out and start a little early trick-or-treating.
There you go. Mayor, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.